Ohio State now. The Buckeyes survive a home game against Nebraska. They have a big one ahead with Penn State. They go to State College next week. Will Howard, 3 touchdown passes today. Jordan Hancock, the game-clinching interception of Dylan Raiola in the fourth quarter. Buckeyes defense played pretty well. They were 4 touchdown favorites, but I say just win, baby. We're in the 12-team playoff era. Ohio State coming off that tough loss to Oregon. Then they have a bye week. You got Penn State next week, another massive game. So Ohio State getting a win against a Nebraska team that certainly had a bad taste in their mouth, getting smoked by Indiana the week prior. Just win in advance, and they did that. They also had some top recruits on campus. I'm going to bring in Hayes Fawcett, Jahkeem Stewart on campus this weekend. I think Ohio State's in the top 2 right now with Oregon. You also have USC and LSU in the mix for Jahkeem Stewart. You've made a lot of edits for Jahkeem. Have you talked to him specifically about what he likes about Ohio State?
I really haven't got into much detail about, each school with Jahkeem Stewart. Obviously, like you said, I saw he took a photo with one of the guys that recruits defensive linemen for Ohio State, and he's been a prominent recruiter for Jahkeem Stewart. But
Alan Clark.
Yep. But overall, in terms of going school by school with him, I haven't really got into much detail with him. But overall, that's all I really have on Jahkeem.
Yeah, this is an unofficial visit to Ohio State for Jahkeem Stewart. He still has his official visit for the Michigan game later in the fall. I traded some texts with his camp today. He is going to dinner with the coaching staff tonight. I imagine Ryan Day will be part of that as he continues to evaluate Ohio State. And he wants to see these teams play down the stretch. Talking to Jahkeem Stewart, talking to his camp, he envisions himself playing in the biggest games in college football, consistently on the biggest stage, playing for the championships, playing for the most coveted awards defensive linemen can win. And when they're talking about the pregame players to watch, he wants to be mentioned in those games. Ohio State has been as consistent, Hayes, a team as far as when you're talking about who's consistently in the top 5, they're right there with Alabama and Georgia year in and year out as a national title contender. And I think that they are in great shape for Jahkeem Stewart. The Buckeyes have the number 2 recruiting class in the country right now with the chance to finish number 1, but they need to land guys like Jahkeem Stewart. They also want to add another big-time offensive lineman. You have Damola Ajidahun on campus. He's currently committed to Georgia Tech. South Carolina has been making a major move with him. He has been to Columbia twice this fall. Georgia kind of remains in the picture. At one point, Hayes, I thought he was going to Georgia before he committed to Georgia Tech. Did you hear anything about that behind the scenes?
Yeah, we were, throughout the summer, we were exchanging texts. And at one point he did tell me like Georgia was definitely, I guess you could say, his leader. And then, ultimately ended up choosing Georgia Tech. Obviously he's still making his visits. So that's going to be one to continue to monitor. But Steve, I have a question for you in terms of Jahkeem Stewart. Are you anticipating Stewart take this all the way to the early signing period, or do you think it gets done before then?
I am. I think he's excited to take these visits. He's got upcoming trips to LSU for the Alabama game. He's got USC for the Nebraska game. Then he returns to Oregon for an unofficial. Then he's got Ohio State for the Michigan game. Then he's going to weigh everything. He's going to announce on December 4th or sometime during that 3-day early signing period with plans to enroll at the school early of his choice. He wants to see these teams play big games down the stretch. He wants to see how these teams respond to adversity. Maybe USC gets hot here and has a big stretch. They had a good win against Rutgers. If they can win out, including what would maybe be a major win against Notre Dame at the end of the season, he wants to watch how these teams continue to play, continue to develop their players. So yes, I expect him to finish his process. Rodney Dunham Jr. is one of the best 2-sport players in the 2026 class. He's at Ohio State this weekend. He was at Tennessee last weekend. He's going to play football and baseball on the next level. I like where Tennessee stands right now, but Ohio State is in the picture for Rodney Dunham. Lincoln Keys is a 2026 tight end from the state of Michigan who tells me he had a great visit on campus this weekend for Ohio State. And then Trey Taylor is a 2027 quarterback from the state of Illinois. He is staying the night. He tells me that he is going to meet with Chip Kelly and the staff more on Sunday. I think LSU is setting the pace early in Trey Taylor's recruitment, but he's got a keen eye on several schools, Ohio State being one of them. Ohio State will be in the spotlight again next week as they travel to State College to play Penn State, a noon kickoff against the Nittany Lions in what is always one of the biggest games year in and year out in the Big Ten. Please hit like and subscribe to this video. In the comment section below, we want to hear, will Ohio State land Jahkeem Stewart? Will they make a run with Damola Ejiofor this weekend? Where do you guys think of Rodney Dunham and the Buckeyes in that 2026 cycle? And will Ohio State finish with the #1 recruiting class? Please hit like and subscribe.